My name is Matt Shane, and I'm a drawer and painter and a teacher as well, and I live in Montreal, Quebec in Canada.
Hello, my name is Jim Holyoak. I'm a writer and a drawer, presently based in the mountains of interior British Columbia in Western Canada.
I met Jim in 1999 on the first day of a Drawing 100 class at the University of Victoria in Western Canada. And since then we've done about 20 large-scale drawing installations together. So working together has become a regular thing for us. But when we start to work on these drawings, I mean, it's a wide open field, and there's something. It's kind of full of possibility at the very beginning, and it matches the architecture, so it's kind of feels like the whole room is our canvas to work with, and these ideas of gallery versus studio versus living space really break down for us. It all becomes one kind of organic zone of production. And that's really important to us, to really live in the drawings, to inhabit the space while we're working on them.
While we're working together, we try really hard to have no area that is dominated by just one of us. So I believe all the works in the exhibition, basically every inch of all the drawings is touched by both of our hands. So after about an hour of working together, if we haven't moved, we'll switch places.
We chat a little bit, but mostly we're just working together. It is a way of communicating. And then it's this interesting thing. It's almost like the image comes out by emergence. Like you're working on your one space, and then you step back from the project and you see, oh, this actually connects to what Jim was doing over here. And so the whole thing starts to take shape almost magically. It's like we had a loose plan of how it was going to go, but it happens in a different way than we could ever predict. So this piece behind me is called Forestrial Brain, and we started this work on the west coast of Vancouver Island, and we happened to have met in Victoria on Vancouver Island about 22 years ago. So this was a way of coming full circle for us. We started this piece by doing a hike on the West Coast Trail. So we hiked for 8 days straight, and we'd walk along the trail, and whenever we found something that caught our attention, we would stop and sketch it or take photos. Over the course of that hike, we gathered a whole bunch of source material to draw from. Then we got back to Victoria. We wrapped a whole big gallery called Open Space with paper, and we drew on the walls for a month and a half. And we were trying to draw our experience of walking on the trail. So we were looking at our source material and using that as inspiration, but we were also taking it into more of a kind of fantasy realm. Here you can see the furry head of a dead sea lion, and it's covered in kelp. It almost looks like some kind of intestines that are engulfing this sea lion, and it's under a driftwood structure, a kind of shelter that you'll often see along the beaches of Vancouver Island. It's a rainforest, so in fact it's wet most of the time.
Although the works in the Walloways exhibition come from different projects, they were selected to all create the immersive sense of a forest. Each of those projects connect to forests. And as Matt was saying earlier, the drawings that we've made for Forestrial Brain are coming from an experience of actually hiking for 8 days through the rainforest, making sketches. But for instance, Quagmire, the forest in that was inspired by the Carboniferous period of natural history. And so we're thinking of the world as a primordial swamp. Matt and I both grew up in fairly swampy areas of British Columbia. And we were thinking about that a little bit earlier today about it's not an artistic influence for us. It's an experience of growing up, of being children, and even now hanging out in swamps and in forests, which are these sort of unstructured and undetermined spaces where you can go in there and discover what's there, and what you do there is what happens. they aren't made for us, they just exist.
A little while ago, a former student of mine was asking about the setting of our work and asking if the setting was important, or if it's just kind of a backdrop in our drawing. And I was thinking the setting is actually the subject of our drawings. This environment, this forest in this case, we think of it as being a kind of conscious or sentient place. So it's definitely not a backdrop to a cast of characters. It's like the trees and the roots and the branches are themselves characters. So there are creatures hidden throughout. Especially Jim does a lot of hidden creatures in these environments. But I would say the foliage, the trees, the puddles are just as alive as the characters are. The setting itself is the subject.
Both Matt and I have had long-held interests in parallel worlds. And we're thinking about how even every consciousness, not just every human consciousness, but every creature in the world that has consciousness has its own parallel world that it carries around with it. So there's how many trillions of minds perceiving the world somewhat differently or uniquely, every one.
I think it's powerful to be able to inhabit a different world. Perhaps it increases empathy because you can inhabit a different creature, a different body, a different consciousness that's not your own. And if you're able to put yourself in the mindset of something that isn't you, then perhaps you gain more empathy that way.